Jason Kelce is calling it a career after 13 legendary years. On today's Locked On Eagles, we'll tell you why Jason Kelce might be the greatest Eagle of all time, how the Eagles can replace him, and if they're going to replace other all-time greats on this roster.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Louis DiBiase, joined as always by Gino Camilleri. We're your only daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Yes, even into the offseason, and that's where we find ourselves right now after the Eagles fell in embarrassing fashion in the wild card round last night, 32-9. The season is over, and now, Gino, a lot of questions this offseason, but one question we did have answered quickly after the game. We heard it from Adam Schefter and a lot of other reports this morning. The legend himself, Jason Kelce, is finally calling it a career after 13 years, 7 Pro Bowl appearances, 6 All-Pro selections, and a Super Bowl. And I think, honestly, man, even over Brian Dawkins, this might be the greatest franchise player of all time in Philadelphia. I think he might even be the best center in NFL history. This is the only center that's ever had 6 first-team All-Pros and a Super Bowl championship. He's one of the smartest players this league has ever seen, one of the most athletic at his spot, and it's not going to be the same without number 62, even with the young pieces they have up front.
First off, I think everybody should just give him a round of applause for an unbelievable career.
It's rare, man.
Talk about somebody who just broke the mold, an undersized center who was more athletic than he was physical at a time when the NFL required more size than athleticism at the position. And Andy Reid took a chance on this guy in a horrendous draft class, by the way. He turned out to be a literal diamond.
Was that the Jaquan Jarrett draft class? 2011?
Yeah, that was just the abysmal class that you remember absolutely nobody. 2011 and 2013 was just as bad. But Jason Kelce, what more can you say about him? I wish it didn't go down in this way, that he loses the Super Bowl last year. They go out in this fashion against Tampa Bay, but that's not going to be what he is remembered for.
No.
He, like you said, Lou, is the epitome of Philadelphia, man. He put on one of the all-time performances after the 2017 Super Bowl in the Mummers costume, one of the all-time great speeches. I'm sure people have it tattooed on them at this point in their lives, and he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I agree.
He's going to have a statue in Lincoln Financial Field.
62 will be retired.
It has to be retired. Nobody's going to wear it after yesterday. And Lou, it just feels like he needs to go sit on a beach for like 2 months and just relax, man. Somebody who has given everything, like didn't have any more blood, sweat, or tears to give for this organization. Jason, thank you. Thank you, 62. Now go chug a keg of beer and just chill out for a little bit, man. It looks like he was so beat up. I felt bad watching him after a while. Just even walking into the stadium, it's like, dude, this guy is going to call it quits sooner than later, and finally he did.
He gave it way more years than I thought. I mean, we thought he might be done after 2016, not by his own choice, and then in 2020, you think that might be it. He might retire after that 4-win season. And yet he still, Gino, the final year of his career at, 36 years old, is still the best at his position to do it. And not a lot of guys can say that at the time of their retirement. And so Jason Kelce, again, he's going out on his own terms, and that's great. It sucks that he couldn't get one final ring, but for the fact that he did get a Super Bowl in Philadelphia is so awesome, because there's so many guys like Brian Dawkins you want that for, right? The Reggie Whites of the world, all these legends, and Kelce did get one. And when you talk about the all-time greats like a Brian Dawkins, that's somebody that everybody talks about the connection he had with the city and the fan base. But honestly, I don't know if anybody's had a connection with this city and this fan base like Jason Kelce did. Like, he just got it, and he was one of them. The emotional intelligence, like the passion, the tears, like it resonated with everybody how much he cared. And you mentioned the Super Bowl parade speech, which of course is one of the most famous speeches in the history of sports. But honestly, I think back to even last year, you saw the documentary, the speech he gave the night before Super Bowl 57 in the hotel with all those players. And I think that's something I think about even more than the parade speech, because you just saw the passion and the emotion, and it's hard not to get choked up watching that every time. So this was a real raw player, and we're going to miss him for sure. I mean, I'm a younger Eagles fan. I don't really know the Eagles all that much without Jason Kelce under center.
Jason Kelce came to Philadelphia at a time where they had some all-time greats.
Yeah.
Leaving Philadelphia the years after John Runyon and Trey Thomas, and you were trying to figure out who was going to be that next one. And Jason Kelce kind of took that torch and ran with it, more than just being a football player, but being somebody who really epitomized what it meant to live in Philadelphia. And if you were going to say, what is a Philadelphia Eagle? It's somebody who comes to work, they don't say much, but when they talk, you listen, and they earn the respect by what they do on the football field. That was Jason Kelce through and through. And above anything, Lou, I think he revolutionized that position. How many undersized centers have gotten a chance because of Jason Kelce?
Guys, look at his replacement.
Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson. These guys are going to get a chance to replace Jason Kelce. It's big boots to fill. But, man, he's so smart. He was a pseudo-second quarterback, a pseudo-offensive coordinator for you. He's not going to be easy to replace at all.
Irreplaceable.
There's no way to replace him.
I mean, seeing that guy pull in 20 yards down the field, he's taking out linebackers and safeties going full speed. It's one of the most fun players that you'll ever watch at a position that most of the time fans, true fans care about, but it's not the sexy position. But Kelce made it sexy. He made it fun to watch offensive line play. And I think the Eagles are in good hands, though. Like, you're never going to replace Jason Kelce, Gino, but I think the guys they have in-house, Cam Jurgens had a really good year at right guard. He's going to go back to his natural position at center like he did at Nebraska. That's what they drafted him to be in the second round of the 2022 NFL draft. I think Tyler Steen, then, if you agree, probably moves over to right guard, and it's kind of crazy, man. Outside of Lane Johnson, you suddenly have this new wave of young linemen, like the Jason Peters, Jason Kelce, Brandon Brooks, Isaac Seumalo era, all these staples up front. It's really over outside of Lane.
There's just one more guy, and it is the literal master splinter Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle memes with Lane Johnson. He's the last one, and the good thing is, Lou, talk about carrying the torch. I think Jordan Mailata, Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, these guys learned it the right way.
Yeah,
they learned it
they're
from
in good hands.
Two all-time greats in Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson. You are in great hands with the guys to take this thing.
They've been preparing for years, man. I mean, it shows how much they value Jason Kelce by how important it was for them to make sure that they didn't lose a step when he was gone by drafting. They drafted his replacement twice, and that shows how far into his career he went when people didn't expect it. The Eagles didn't expect it. They drafted Landon Dickerson, you got to remember, to be his replacement at one point too. So, I mean, he just an unbelievable career, and it's crazy because, again, you go back to 2016, a lot of this fan base thought he might be out, and he did not play great. And suddenly to see him become one of, if not the best players in franchise history over that final 7-year stretch, it's so cool. And the fact that he and Brandon Graham kind of followed that same path is unique and really neat.
I don't think his days in Philadelphia are done, though. I think he's way too intelligent of a human being. If he's going to come back as a coach, I think they're going to pick his brain on some prospects when it comes to the offensive line, like they did when they were drafting Cam Jurgens. And he's somebody who just understands Philadelphia, like Connor Barwin, for example, who's still in the organization. I feel like that with Jason Kelce, just somebody who really gets it, knows what the team and Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are looking for. And those guys are few and far between now, Lou. And I was a Yankee fan growing up, and I saw the days that Jorge Posada and Andy Pettitte and Derek Jeter, all these guys start to leave. Then it was the same thing with the Eagles with Brian Dawkins, Brian Westbrook, Donovan McNabb. This is your turn, man. Like, this is your time to go through it. These are the guys. And
I feel old.
It stinks, but hey, 62, there'll never be anybody like him. Jeff Stoutland gave him the ultimate tip of the cap, being the first guy that congratulated him on a great career. And I don't know what more. It's not going to do justice what we're saying here.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see what he has to say in Canton. And he makes grown men want to cry because he wears his heart on his sleeve, and I think that's what people love him the most.
That's what they'll remember the most, I think, for sure. The Eagles, Gino, I still think might have to replace another all-timer on the defensive side, but I think they should bring another one back. We'll get into that coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small business, they're wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy at LinkedIn Jobs. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Guys, want to let you know as well that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today. They're here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So, Gino, Jason Kelce did call it a career. Finally, we've been waiting for this for years now. I mean, really, since 2020 is when I started to think, okay, it really could be coming to an end. When you saw him out there in a Friday Night Lights type of scene where he's with Carson Wentz and Zach Ertz, nobody else is left in the
Everybody
lane.
thought that was it.
That was it, right?
4 years ago.
That was 4. You got 4 great years out of elite years out of Jason Kelce after that. So you got to feel grateful in that way. So Jason's out, and he was one of the big 4 left standing, right? These decade-long players. It was him, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, and Brandon Graham. So we know number 62 is not back next year. We know Lane Johnson's going to be back, right? He's going to be your staple still at right tackle. But outside of that, it's up in the air with the other 2 on defense, Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, who both, by the way, I thought had great games in the playoffs against Tampa Bay. I think I feel differently. I'm interested to get your thoughts. I think I'm leaning more, if I had to keep one, it would be Fletcher Cox over Brandon Graham. And I just think that Cox, he just showed this year a rejuvenation. 5.5 sacks in the regular season. He had a 0.5 sack in the playoffs. I honestly think this was his most consistent year he's had in a long time, really, since maybe 2019. 2020, it looked like maybe it's time to move on, but the last 2 years, like 7 sacks last year, 6.5 this year, including the playoffs, I might bring Fletch back if he's willing to take another 1-year deal. The market might be pretty nice now after these 2 strong years, but I would love number 91 back.
I don't want them to get hung up on the idea of just bringing them back because they're Eagles legends.
And that's why I feel differently about BG.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The thing with BG, it's like, oh, he wants to hit 15 years. Like, that would be great.
Which is nice.
But they need an upgrade at edge right now, man.
I agree.
They do, and they got to bring somebody else into that rotation. I thought Nolan Smith played his best game as a pro yesterday. And
second highest grade on PFF of all defenders for the Eagles.
He finally got to the quarterback, and his role is only going to continue to increase. The thing is, if they bring either of them back, Lou, they truly have to use them in that Carlos Dunlap, you're a third down player, and that's what you're going to do.
More of the 2022 way for Fletcher Cox, at least, than 2023.
Because you can't rely on him, because the days of him are done as a full-time starter. You have to be reliant on Jalen Carter. You have to be reliant on Jordan Davis, like it or not. And Milton Williams, I think he deserves a bigger role going forward. And I'm sure they're going to invest more draft picks along that defensive line. And if there is an upgrade in free agency, go and do it. Don't just do it just because they're Eagles legends. But at the same time, I think bringing one of them back for we're talking about carry the torch, maybe one more year to really get these guys. Okay, this is how we do it on the Eagles defensive line. 1 year under a new defensive coordinator. Fletch could get the work ethic instilled in these young guys one more time. I'm with you. I think he still has a role. That type of player, you can always use a ton of those guys, even if he's in an Ndamukong Suh type of role, a Linval Joseph type of role for you. Is it be that bad if you're paying him? Heck, he got $10 million this year. He's like deal or no deal when you just continue to get the big cases, and each year he just continues to go down. So what, $6.5 million for another year of Fletcher Cox for 5.5 sacks, Lou?
If he wants to. I mean, the thing is, he might have an even better market because this is 2 strong years in a row still for this guy. So, but I would love to bring him back on another 1-year deal. And yeah, like you said, don't rely on him as much as you did in 2023. Hopefully he gets back more into a 2022 role. If, Jalen Carter takes another step, if Jordan Davis and Milton Williams can show us more than they did this year, if, like you said, they draft somebody else or bring in a free agent. But I think Fletch still has more juice than BG, and he's somebody still that I'd be willing to rely on as a role player. Brandon Graham, even in the role of a 3rd or 4th rotational guy, I don't know, because, yes, Nolan Smith ended the year on a high note, but because of the question mark still with him, and, of course, Hassan Riddick and Josh Sweat need to get paid, I would like somebody else in that 4-man rotation that I think can take on more right now than BG would. If BG wants to hit that milestone of 15 years and come back and he's your Derek Barnett of this year where he's like the 5th guy, then you're a 4B, then I'm okay with that. But I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to go back into next year with Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham as the 3 and 4. I feel like they can do a little better than BG. And yes, again, you want him to finish off his career in Philadelphia, but I'm not just bringing him back just so he can hit a milestone.
At the same time, so much is going to change between now and then because it could be a completely different defense because I don't think they're going to go back to the cover 6 Vic Fangio system. I'm sure that there will be some sort of new front that they play to go along with a new secondary / coverage that they play and what will be Brandon Graham's role because in this style of defense, he's not a stand-up outside linebacker, which they asked him to do at times. And he really has
35 years old.
Hand in the dirt, get after the quarterback. The thing is, he could still give you those reps to interchange on the interior if you do get creative. Much like guys on the offense, Lou, you have to find somebody on defense who will be able to utilize him in more than just a way that is he's going to be a 3rd down rusher strictly on 3rd downs, just like Chris Long was. Like when Chris Long came in, you knew what he was coming in the game for. That's what he has to be used as. But if you could find an upgrade, much like we have talked about, you can't just sit on your hands like they did in 2018, and that's why we were so frustrated with it. You have to be willing to move forward, and it is a business at the end of the day, and it sucks. It sucks. But much like Jason Kelce, BG, man, I thought he was gone 4 years ago as well. Same with Fletcher Cox. You got good years out of these guys, man, but how much juice is left in the squeeze? You pay them for what you are going to get. Right. There's a lot of young players on this football team. I think Nolan Smith is going to continue to take a step. And if they bring in a new system that takes a lot of interchangeability, BG isn't a guy that really fits that mold. Whereas Fletcher Cox can really do a lot of different things on the interior for you. Yeah. And he's pretty versatile. But we'll see, man. It could be a complete overhaul within the next 48 hours, and things could change completely. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who is calling plays for the defense. Because as much as Howie Roseman loves him some Brandon Graham, loves him some Fletcher Cox, if the guy doesn't fit that defensive scheme moving forward, you're not going to have a need for him.
Yeah, I agree. Gino, I think we're confident in some of their young replacements, but I think there are still some questions about others heading into 2024. So we'll get into that as we wrap up this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast.
Today's episode of LOE is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sportsbook of LOE, the entire Locked On Podcast Network, and the largest sportsbook in all of America. Right now, new customers get a $150 bonus bet guaranteed. And all you have to do is place a $5 money line bet. Win or lose, all you have to do is place the bet. Even though the Eagles are out, there's still going to be games that you could bet on, and there's only one place to do it. That is at FanDuel. Win or lose, once again, you're going to get $150 back in bonus bets with a $5 money line bet. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON and make your first bet a layup. You can bet on basketball, any sport that they have on there. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL and the entire Locked On Podcast Network.
Today's episode of Locked On Eagles is also brought to you by Jace Medical. I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities that life throws our way, but let's talk for a minute about preparing for real life. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics right in the middle of the worst flu season we've had in over a decade, which is scary. Can't imagine a more helpless feeling than a family member getting sick while a chain supply issue kept them from life-saving medication that they needed. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. So visit jacemedical.com, complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medication will then be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to get prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com, use our offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. The L is capitalized and locked on ahead. jacemedical.com, locked on is the code. Get $20 off your next order. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. It's a Tuesday edition of the show. And Gino, we're going to wrap up this edition of the podcast by posing the question, how confident are we in the replacements of the Big Four? Jason Kelce, eventually Lane Johnson, although he's still, to me, playing some incredible football, and I don't think he's hanging it up over the next few years. But mostly for Jason Kelce, who just retired, Fletcher Cox, who is now a free agent, and Brandon Graham, who are both on one-year deals in 2023. So we've got Jalen Carter, we've got Jordan Davis, we've got Nolan Smith, all these first-round talents from a big school at Georgia that are expected to take over eventually. You got Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen on the offensive side of the football. How confident are you in these young prospects to take over for these guys at a bigger rate this year and then eventually on a full-time basis?
It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy to replace number 62 at center for sure. I mean, out of all of them, though, that's going to be the hardest one, quite simply because he plays 100% of the snaps.
And yet I'm most confident, though, in Cam Jurgens of all of them. Or maybe Jalen Carter, but then Cam.
As a duo of him and Landon Dickerson being next to each other, I 100% agree, because you've had that continuity to know what it is, to get the calls in, to see what Jason Kelce is seeing. They'll be able to work as a tandem in that first year. It's a wait-and-see approach. I was confident with the coordinators coming into this year because of that continuity element, and look where that got us. But at the same time, they are some good football players. And who's to say they don't draft another center in the second round? How mad would that make you, Lou? I
would be pretty upset about that, yeah. If they drafted a third replacement, I would be a little ticked. Because I think, Gino, Cam Jurgens, again, this isn't a right guard that played well at right guard. Now you're forcing him over to play center. By the way, this would be the fourth replacement because Isaac Seumalo at one point was drafted in the third round. And he played center at Oregon State, but I digress. I think Cam Jurgens, again, he played really well at right guard, but that was where he was seen as out of position. So I think people say he's going to go back to a more natural spot for him. And when he played that well at right guard, I'm pretty confident he'll be even better at the spot that he knows even more. So I don't think suddenly there's going to be a learning curve when he goes back to center this year. And Tyler Steen, I'm pretty confident. I mean, this wasn't some 5th or 6th round pick, although the Eagles find those pretty well in offensive linemen, so that shouldn't make you not confident. But this was a borderline second rounder of the first pick in the third round that the Eagles moved up for. So I like Tyler Steen, Jurgens, and Dickerson. It's a young trio on the inside, but I'm more confident in that than Jordan Davis and Nolan Smith right now. I don't know. That's just where my head's at.
I think people are down on Nolan Smith. I thought he played pretty good down the stretch.
I'm more disappointed in Jordan Davis than Nolan Smith. We knew Smith, it was going to be a learning curve, or more just about getting that body ready for the NFL. But Jordan Davis is the one I was expecting to take a bigger step as a pass rusher, and my expectations for him are changing.
The defense moving forward is going to have to be prefaced on the idea that it's Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, and we work from that out. It has to be.
Are you confident in that with Davis?
I mean, you have to play to his strength, Lou. You can't just send him out there and just hope for things to change. He's a 2-gap, 0-1 tech, play over the center, Let everybody else do their job.
Unfortunately, though, we moved up in the draft hoping he would be more because Howie Roseman said that last year.
Quite literally. They did. Yeah. And the thing is, you have to just accept who he is. And it's year 3. It's a big year to evaluate him. And he is a first-round pick, so you're going to have at least 5 years to try and figure out what he is. But hopefully that comes sooner rather than later. Yeah. But I'm more confident in the idea of Jalen Carter being a dominant threat
for sure
as the 3 tech. Honest NFL has tweeted it multiple times. He says, build your script from Jalen Carter out. I think that's the way that you have to do it. And I'm confident that he can be the guy to be a better Fletcher Cox, if not more, if his trajectory continues to hit that peak, which we have seen from times in his rookie year. And who's to say that he can't be better if things continue? It's a long way to replace the sustainability, the continuity element of that, Lou. Are you ever going to find a 14-year edge rusher in Brandon Graham who plays the run really well, who can also get you 6 to 8 sacks every single season? I don't think so. That's very difficult. Is it hard to find a center who's as good as Jason Kelce, undersized at the position and completely revolutionize what you do? 100%. Is it hard to find a Fletcher Cox? Definitely. But can you find, in a Moneyball type of approach, a way to replace all of them? Absolutely. And I think they were proactive in a lot of those areas. Are they still going to have to add to edge? In my opinion, yes.
Yes.
Will they add to the offensive line? I think they do, but not as early.
They should probably add another defensive tackle, I think, too.
Yeah, and you could wait a little later on because you have already invested blue chip type of assets.
Right. Like you said, they were proactive. They invested many first round picks. Like the replacements are here. They have to see this through with Jordan Davis and Nolan Smith, even if people are doubting it. Like you can't bail on this a year or two in. Like they are going to be the ones that are going to try to replace these legends for sure.
Oh, they have to. I mean, you have to be confident in that group. And the same thing with Milton Williams should take on a bigger role moving forward too. And I think they found a little bit of something in Moro Ajomo, and I think Marlon Tuipulotu will have a chance. And
good run stoppers.
The interior of the defensive line is going to be easier to replace by committee. The edge is more like, do you have the star power there? And those two guys definitely have to step up. I think they're going to have to find more rotational talent there because guys like Patrick Johnson didn't do anything for you on the back end. Past Nolan Smith, there was really nothing for you. But now it really comes down to Howie Roseman with 3 picks in the top 53 this year, Lou. How are they going to add to that? Because it is a big draft class the last 2 years because you knew what you had to replace. Well, now the replacements are gone, Lou. These guys are going to have to step in right away. And who's bearing the torch for them? The guys that we're talking about right now. So this thing can go one of two ways. It could go great. These guys step in right away. They replace exactly what you needed to. Or it's a little bit of a bumpy road. The torch, it gets a little wet on the way. The flame goes out. And we're talking about trying to find replacements for Jordan Davis in 2 years, which hopefully, fingers crossed, is not the avenue we go down. Because the plan was, with these first-round draft picks, with the second-round picks that they invested in the offensive line. And heck, I mean, even guys like Sidney Brown, you got to be inspired by those guys to step up next year. And what's Nakobe Dean going to be? It's the youth movement. It's a step away from 2018 because they don't have, or 2017 going into 2018 rather, because it isn't as old of a roster. But there are decisions to be made, and there is going to be a youth movement coming in. Once again, that has been the way they've gone the last couple of years, and it's only going to continue to march in that direction. I
agree, because I think you should go younger in the secondary with draft picks higher up in the first few rounds at corner, potentially at safety, at linebacker. So, yeah, Gino, I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of youth on defense, and I think that's the way it's got to be for sure. A lot of questions, though, to get into this offseason with these prospects in-house, and they could potentially add through free agency and the draft. We got you covered 5 days a week for that right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Guys, again, want to let you know about Locked On launching the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Go check it out on YouTube. They're here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with all of our local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Again, go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to that first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. For Gino Camilleri, I'm Lou DiBiase signing off. As always, thank you for downloading, thank you for watching and listening, and let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.